Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I am your host, the One Take Man. After a whole month of not particularly complex or interesting videos, I decided I'm going to go for a theme month this time. And this theme is based on an anniversary, more precisely on today's anniversary. Namely, on this day, September 4th, 55 years ago, a small little show that a lot of people haven't really heard of, Star Trek, aired its first episode. As someone who has been a longtime fan of the franchise, and who has had the opportunity to, see a lot of it, or at least a lot of its non-interactive visual media, I have some ideas on what would make for a good Star Trek show, and I want to use this month in order to in order to showcase my ideas with it. Starting with the 55th anniversary. Technically, there are some sources that say that September 8th is actually the 55th anniversary, but I just went with the 4th because it's more convenient. That being said, I would also like to add some caveats before I get into the actual meat of the video. Caveats, namely that I haven't watched the Discovery's 31st Century season, I haven't seen Star Trek Picard, and I haven't seen Lower Decks so far. So it's possible that some of the things I'm presenting right now will not be will in some way contradict with how I see the future of Star Trek's main timeline moving forward. I hope that's not the case, but if it is, should be easy enough to adjust. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. So how do I see the future of this franchise? Well, first of all, I think the future of this franchise does not take place either at some place in its future or in its near future. I think you should have it take place at some point in the far future, when most of the characters from the TNG era have died out. Though it might still be possible for some of them to show up. Namely, I want this new Star Trek series to take place some 250 years after the TNG era, so in the 27th century. Some of you might be thinking, well, that would mean that the technology advances to a ridiculous degree to the point where it might not even look like Star Trek anymore. To which I'll say, yes, you would think that, but actually that's not what would happen for reasons that I will not get into here, but that should become obvious as I present my video. So what will have changed in the last quarter of a millennium? Well, there are two major things that are different, that really cause all the differences, and all of them take place right at the tail end of the TNG era. First of all, the Romulan Empire falls, either into disarray or disappears completely because a star in its territory went nova. If you'll remember, that's what triggered the divergence in the J.J. Abrams timeline. And the other event is that the Cardassian Union hasn't been able to handle the aftermath of the Dominion War particularly well. A lot of the worlds under its control have now gotten independent, and Cardassia Prime, as well as its closest satellites, are now divided in between imperialists who want to make Cardassia great again, and integrationists who want to see Cardassia once again become, or not necessarily once again, but become a center for culture, the arts, technological development, and other less heroic stuff. The Klingons would still be kicking around, and in fact would actually thrive within this new setting, because with these other major powers from the Alpha and Beta quadrants having fallen, they now have more opportunities for conquest, and that sparks a new quasi new golden age for them. If you thought the Cardassian occupation of Bajor was bad, imagine that taking place over hundreds, if not thousands, of worlds, many of them already damaged or even ravaged by war and natural disaster. The Federation doesn't just stand around and watch it happen, though. They try to establish as many protectorates as they can from all of these. From all of these worlds that are suddenly independent, or from the worlds that become independent because they manage to overthrow their Klingon overlords, either through sheer force of will or because the Klingon overlords are stuck in a civil war between one great house and the other. Happens. And this leads to an increase in tensions between the Klingons and the Federation, and therefore, which further down the road, around the time of the setting, leads to a new Cold War with a few hot flashes here and there. And that is the basic backdrop of the of the new astropolitical situation within the Milky Way galaxy. Other notable powers from this new setting include the Breen, who have managed to expand and consolidate after their involvement within the Dominion War. The Folians, who all of a sudden have started becoming relevant again through a network of technological alliances, and the Sheliak, who have garnered a network of allies who are too powerful to be conquered, but too pissed off to join anyone else. And last but not least, the Ferengi, who have had a somewhat interesting last quarter of a millennium. Namely, the reforms that Grand Nagus Rom brought about that led to the pursuit of profit becoming more liberalized, has led to a massive demographic shift, or you could even say demographic crisis, among the Ferengi Commerce Alliance. Therefore, they saw it fit to rebrand themselves as an expansionist fascist autocracy. And they enforce a gender power imbalance that is so severe, even John Norman looks at it and goes, dude, what the fuck? So yeah, in conclusion, the TNG era wasn't exactly conducive to stable astropolitical conclusions. You might disagree, but I still think this is the most plausible way that the setting could develop, and it also allows for new species, other new players within the setting, as well as bringing the Xindi into the story in a more substantial way. You should be able to identify a lot of potential story ideas that would very much piss conservatives off in this new setting. And if you want to write episodes for this new setting, then I recommend you do just that. You do your best to piss off the conservatives. Just because. And now some of you might be asking yourselves, well, who's actually going to carry out these stories? So who will the main crew be? I will talk about that in next week's video. For now, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, regardless of how much you've seen. I hope you'll see at least enough for you to hear me Fuck, I can't talk anymore. For you to hear me thank you. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like it or find it interesting to think about. If for some reason you didn't like it, then go ahead and downvote it and share it wherever you think people will be angry over it. It doesn't really matter to me. If there is anything you'd like to add to this conversation, the comment section waits your input. And if you want to see when my next video comes out, then I suggest, or I like to ask you to go ahead and subscribe. Maybe also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.